For centuries, the mighty Maya civilization has baffled historians. How did such an advanced empire suddenly vanish without a trace? What hidden knowledge did they leave behind in their temples and glyphs? Today, we're unlocking the truth behind the greatest ancient mystery ever discovered, the lost secrets of the Maya. Welcome to your channel name, where history's greatest secrets come alive. Today, we're diving deep into the jungles of Central America to uncover the untold story of the Maya civilization, a society of astronomers, architects, and mathematicians far ahead of their time. From the towering pyramids of Tikal to the mysterious fall of their cities, we'll explore how the Maya built a world that still puzzles modern science. Get ready, because what you're about to hear might change everything you thought you knew about ancient history. Deep in the heart of Central America, where thick jungles swallow ancient stones and the cries of howler monkeys echo through the mist, a powerful civilization began to rise thousands of years ago. Long before the Aztecs and even before the great Inca Empire, there were the Maya, a people who emerged from the shadows of time and built one of the most astonishing societies the ancient world had ever seen. Their story doesn't begin with war or conquest, but with a slow awakening, a transformation that turned scattered farming villages into towering cities of stone and power. Imagine this, it's around 2000 BCE. Small communities are scattered across the Yucatan Peninsula, Guatemala, Belize, and parts of Honduras. The air is heavy with humidity, and the land is alive with green, yet harsh and unforgiving. Here, the Maya learned to tame nature itself. They master agriculture, carving fields out of dense forests, developing irrigation systems, and cultivating maize, the sacred corn that would become the very heartbeat of their civilization. Maize wasn't just food. It was life, a divine gift, and it shaped their entire way of existence. As the centuries passed, these early farmers began to unite, sharing language, beliefs, and a vision of something far greater. By 1000 BCE, the first ceremonial centers began to rise, platforms of stone, small temples reaching toward the heavens. These were more than places of worship. They were symbols of a growing people learning to build, to plan, to dream. And from these humble beginnings came cities, magnificent, sprawling cities that would one day rival anything seen in Egypt, Greece, or Rome. By the time the world reached the height of the classical era, the Maya were already masters of architecture, mathematics, and astronomy. But this first chapter of their rise, their birth, is what set everything in motion. The Maya developed a complex social system with powerful kings, noble families, priests, artists, and farmers, all connected by an intricate web of religion and duty. Power was not only political but spiritual. The rulers were seen as divine intermediaries between the gods and the people, their word law, their blood sacred. As their influence spread, so did their art and innovation. They built massive pyramids with precision so exact that some aligned perfectly with the sun's movement during solstices and equinoxes. Their engineers designed entire cities with advanced drainage systems and reservoirs, allowing them to thrive in places where rainfall was unpredictable. Their artists carved intricate stelae, tall stone monuments that told stories of rulers, gods, and battles in a language of symbols still being deciphered today. But what's truly fascinating is that all this brilliance emerged not from a single empire, but from a network of city-states, each with its own ruler, its own identity, sometimes allies, sometimes enemies. Cities like Tikal, Copan, and Palenque became centers of power and knowledge, competing to outshine each other through architecture, art, and ceremony. It was a golden age of innovation, a race for greatness among the kings of the jungle. And yet, even in their earliest days, the Maya were driven by something deeper, an obsession with the cosmos, with time, with the unseen forces that governed existence. Their gods demanded devotion, their rituals blood, and their calendars precision. Every crop planted, every temple built, every sacrifice made was tied to a cosmic balance they believed they must maintain to keep the world from falling into chaos. From these roots, the Maya rose, not as conquerors, but as creators of a world that would leave modern scholars speechless. A civilization that seemed to appear from nowhere, flourishing in the heart of an unforgiving landscape, building monuments that have withstood thousands of years of rain, wind, and silence. A civilization whose origins still whisper from beneath the vines and ruins, daring us to understand how a people born in isolation and surrounded by wilderness could give rise to one of the most intellectually and spiritually advanced societies in human history. High above the jungle canopy, where the air is still and the stars burn bright against the endless black sky, the Maya looked upward, not just with curiosity but with divine purpose. To them, the heavens were not a mystery to be feared but a grand calendar, a sacred script written by the gods themselves. Every movement of the stars, every eclipse, every flicker of Venus carried meaning, power, and prophecy. While much of the ancient world looked to the skies for guidance, the Maya mastered them. They were astronomers in an age of myth, mathematicians wrapped in feathers and jade, decoding the rhythm of the universe with a precision that still humbles modern science. The Maya believed the cosmos was alive, a living system woven from cycles of birth, death, and rebirth. Time was not linear. It moved like a wheel, turning endlessly, each revolution bringing echoes of the past into the present. Understanding that cycle meant understanding the will of the gods. Their priests, the astronomer priests, devoted their lives to charting the heavens, recording patterns in the stars and calculating the exact alignment of planets. These weren't guesses or superstitions. They were sophisticated observations made over centuries. Every Maya city had observatories, massive stone structures aligned with the cosmos. In cities like Chichen Itza, the Temple of Kukulkan stands as a perfect example during the spring and autumn equinoxes. The sunlight casts a shadow that forms the shape of a serpent slithering down the pyramid steps. This was not accidental. It was the result of mathematical genius and astronomical precision. The Maya tracked the movement of Venus so closely that their predictions of its appearances and disappearances were more accurate than those made by civilizations thousands of years later with telescopes. They divided the heavens into realms of gods and forces, and every celestial body had a spirit, a story. The sun represented life, the moon reflected cycles of fertility and death, and Venus was the bringer of both war and peace. When Venus appeared in the dawn sky, the Maya believed it was a sign, a signal that kings used to plan wars or ceremonies. Their calendar systems, particularly the Hab and the Tzolk'in, interlocked in a way that allowed them to measure time not just by seasons but by cosmic energy, creating what we now call the calendar round. But even that was not enough for the Maya. They went further, crafting the long count calendar, capable of recording dates across thousands of years, allowing them to map not only their present but their entire place in cosmic history. Their mathematical system, astonishing in its simplicity and depth, was one of the first in the world to include the concept of zero, a breakthrough that even the Romans never achieved. With just 3 symbols, a dot, a bar, and a shell, they could express vast numbers in complex equations. This mastery of numbers wasn't just for accounting or trade. It was spiritual. Numbers held sacred meaning, and through them, the Maya believed they could communicate with the divine. Each temple, each city, was constructed with astronomical precision. The pyramids were calendars in stone. The steps, platforms, and corners aligned with solstices, equinoxes, and cardinal directions. Even their cities were planned as reflections of the cosmos, with temples representing the heavens and caves symbolizing the underworld. To walk through a Maya city was to walk through a living model of the universe itself. And when night fell and the fires burned low, the priests would climb to the top of their temples, gaze into the heavens, and read the fate of empires written among the stars. They saw time as sacred energy, and through their celestial calculations, they guided the lives of kings, predicted eclipses, and performed rituals that they believed kept the balance of the world intact. The Maya were not merely stargazers. They were keepers of time, interpreters of destiny, and architects of cosmic order. Their legacy lives in the carved glyphs that still speak of planets and gods, in temples that mark the passage of light and shadow, and in a calendar that continues to mystify the modern world. The more we uncover about their astronomical genius, the more it becomes clear the Maya were not just studying the heavens. They were trying to understand humanity's place within them for centuries, The great stone monuments of the Maya stood in silence, their surfaces covered with strange symbols, spirals, faces, animals, and intricate lines that seemed to speak yet revealed nothing. The jungle reclaimed their cities, the rain wore down their walls, and the people who once ruled these lands vanished into mystery. For generations, explorers and scholars looked upon those carved glyphs and wondered what secrets they held. Were they words, numbers, magic, or perhaps messages left by gods? No one could tell. The voice of an entire civilization had been lost. It wasn't until the 19th and 20th centuries that the race to decode the Maya script began. At first, many experts believed it was nothing more than art, beautiful, decorative images that had no linguistic meaning. They thought the Maya were obsessed with numbers and dates, not with language. But that belief was about to be shattered. Deep within the tangled jungles of Guatemala and Mexico, archaeologists uncovered steely, tall stone slabs carved with incredible detail. Each one depicted kings and gods, wars and rituals, and around these figures danced hundreds of symbols that repeated with rhythm and structure. It was no mere decoration. It was writing. The turning point came when brave linguists and cryptographers began to see patterns. They noticed that the symbols appeared in pairs and clusters, following rules similar to speech. Slowly, they realized these were not simple pictures. They were syllables, words, and sentences, part of a complex written language that had once recorded everything from royal bloodlines to celestial events. Among the heroes of this discovery was Yuri Norisov, a Russian linguist who defied the academic world by proposing that the Maya script was phonetic, meaning each symbol represented a sound. His idea was controversial, even ridiculed, but it would eventually prove to be the key that unlocked an entire civilization's voice. With time, scholars discovered that the Maya had developed one of the most sophisticated writing systems in the ancient world, a system made up of more than 800 unique glyphs. These glyphs could represent full words, syllables, or concepts, depending on how they were arranged. They carved their stories on stone, painted them on pottery, and wrote them in folded bark paper books known as codices. Sadly, most of those codices were burned by Spanish conquistadors who saw them as works of the devil, erasing countless chapters of Maya history. Only a few survived: the Dresden Codex, the Madrid Codex, and the Paris Codex, fragile windows into a world that once pulsed with intellectual brilliance. When modern experts finally began reading the texts, the Maya came alive again. Their stones began to speak. The inscriptions told of kings crowned in grand ceremonies, of wars fought for glory and divine favor, of blood offerings made to appease the gods, and of astronomical events that shaped their destiny. It was through these writings that we discovered the Maya were not just farmers and builders, but poets, philosophers, and chroniclers of time itself. Each glyph carried emotion and purpose, not just data, but stories of human triumph and tragedy. One of the most haunting revelations from the glyphs was how deeply the Maya believed in the connection between life, death, and the divine. Their writing intertwined myth and reality so seamlessly that their history felt like a dialogue between mortals and gods. Every king was portrayed as both a ruler and a sacred being, his actions echoing the movements of the cosmos. The language itself became a bridge between heaven and earth, past and future. Even today, new inscriptions continue to be unearthed, hidden beneath centuries of earth and vegetation. Each discovery adds another line to the unfinished story of the Maya. What once seemed impossible to read the words of a lost civilization has now become a journey of rediscovery. Through their language, we are hearing their thoughts again, understanding their fears, their hopes, their obsessions with time and fate. And though their voice was silent for over 1,000 years, the Maya are finally speaking once more, reminding us that even the stones of the past can hold the beating heart of humanity beneath the towering temples and pyramids of the ancient Maya lies a world that few have seen, a world hidden in darkness, carved deep into the earth, filled with secrets that defy explanation. For centuries, the jungles kept these mysteries buried, but as explorers began to dig beneath the ruins, they discovered something extraordinary. The Maya didn't just build upward toward the heavens. They built downward into the depths of the underworld. Beneath their magnificent cities, beneath the stone plazas and sacred pyramids, lie tunnels, chambers and caves that tell a story of power, death, and belief unlike anything else in human history. The first explorers who dared to enter these subterranean realms were stunned. Beneath the temples of Palenque, they found elaborate burial chambers, perfectly preserved tombs that had lain undisturbed for more than 1,000 years. Inside were the remains of Maya kings, their bodies wrapped in jade and obsidian, their faces covered with masks designed to help them ascend into the afterlife. One of the most famous discoveries was the tomb of King Tikal, hidden within the Temple of the Inscriptions. When archaeologists opened the massive stone lid of his sarcophagus, they found carvings depicting the king's journey to the underworld, surrounded by symbols of the cosmos and rebirth. The precision, the artistry, and the sheer scale of this hidden chamber raised an unsettling question: how much more lies buried beneath the Maya world? As technology advanced, new methods of exploration began to reveal even greater wonders. In recent years, using LiDAR scanning, a technology that maps terrain beneath dense vegetation, scientists have uncovered thousands of hidden structures and passages beneath the jungle canopy. Massive networks of tunnels appear to connect temples and cities, some stretching for miles. These were not random. The Maya believed caves and underground passages were sacred portals to Xibalba, the mythic underworld where gods tested the souls of the dead. Many of these tunnels lead to cenotes, natural sinkholes filled with water that the Maya considered gateways to the spirit world. Sacrifices, both human and material, were offered into these depths to ensure harmony between the living and the divine. What archaeologists found within these sacred wells only deepened the mystery. In the famous sacred cenote of Chichen Itza, divers discovered human bones, gold ornaments, jade jewelry, and even obsidian knives, offerings made to appease the gods of rain and death. Some of these remains showed signs of ritual sacrifice, evidence of the Mayas' belief that blood was the ultimate gift to sustain the universe. And yet, these discoveries were not confined to Chichen Itza alone. Across the Maya world, countless underground chambers have been found, each revealing a different aspect of their spiritual and scientific knowledge. Some contain murals depicting celestial events, others hidden caches of artifacts arranged with mathematical precision, as if meant to communicate something far beyond ritual. In some sites, tunnels seem to serve architectural or even acoustic purposes, designed to carry sound from one part of the temple to another, creating echoes that might have been used in ceremonies to mimic the voices of gods. These weren't random constructions. They were masterpieces of engineering, crafted with an understanding of physics and acoustics that seems almost impossible for their time. Beneath the city of Teotihuacan, though not a Maya site but closely connected through trade and influence, similar tunnels have been found lined with shimmering pyrite meant to resemble the night sky. The idea that the Maya might have used underground chambers to mirror the heavens above adds another layer to their genius, as if their world was a reflection of cosmic order, both above and below. Every new excavation seems to uncover more of this hidden network, and with each discovery, the enigma grows. Were these underground complexes mere tombs and ritual sites, or were they something more, perhaps archives of lost knowledge, or even scientific observatories hidden from the eyes of the uninitiated? The Maya left no clear answers, only symbols and architecture that suggest they saw the world as a layered reality, heaven above, earth in the middle, and the underworld below, all connected by sacred pathways. To walk these tunnels today is to step into the realm of the dead, to feel the pulse of an ancient faith that believed the universe itself began in darkness, deep within the earth from which life and civilization would one day rise again. At the height of their power, the Maya civilization seemed unstoppable. Their cities were vast and alive with activity, marketplaces filled with traders, priests performing elaborate rituals on temple steps, and kings commanding armies that expanded their influence across Central America. Their understanding of the stars, time, and mathematics was unmatched. They built structures that aligned perfectly with celestial movements, and kept detailed records of history that spanned centuries. And then, as if swallowed by the very jungle that gave them life, the Maya world began to fall silent. Cities once filled with music and ceremony turned into ghostly ruins. The question that has haunted historians for generations still lingers: how could such a brilliant civilization simply vanish? The mystery of the Maya collapse is one of history's most perplexing enigmas. Around the 9th century, something began to shift. Great cities like Tikal, Copan, and Palenque, which had flourished for hundreds of years, were suddenly abandoned. Construction halted, monuments ceased to be carved, and populations dwindled until only the forest remained. For centuries, no one knew why. Early explorers believed invaders must have destroyed the Maya, but no evidence of mass warfare or invasion was ever found. Others thought disease might have swept through their lands, or perhaps a sudden cataclysm had wiped them out. But as modern science began to uncover more, the picture that emerged was far more complex and hauntingly human. Environmental evidence began to reveal a troubling truth. The Maya had mastered their environment, but perhaps too well. To build their massive cities, they cleared vast stretches of forest for farmland, fuel, and construction. Over time, this deforestation led to soil erosion and the loss of fertile land. The once bountiful earth could no longer sustain the enormous populations that had gathered around the great city-states. Droughts began to strike the region, becoming longer and harsher with each passing generation. Without rain, crops failed, famine spread. The gods who once promised abundance now seemed silent, and faith began to waver. But the decline wasn't just environmental. It was also political. The Maya world was never a single unified empire. It was a network of fiercely independent kingdoms. As resources became scarce, rival cities turned against one another in brutal wars that drained manpower and destroyed alliances. Inscriptions on stone monuments from this period tell of endless conflicts: city fighting city, kings captured and sacrificed, dynasties wiped out. The grandeur of the Maya was eating itself alive from within. And as the wars raged, the people began to lose faith in their divine rulers, those who claimed to speak to the gods, but could not summon the rain. Archaeologists believe that as desperation grew, many Maya turned away from the central cities and moved north toward smaller settlements, searching for survival. In some regions, temples were deliberately burned, idols smashed, and cities left in eerie silence. The once great centers of learning, trade, and worship became overgrown with vines and swallowed by the jungle. The collapse didn't happen overnight. It was slow, painful, and uneven. Some cities fell while others clung to life for centuries. The Maya didn't disappear entirely. Their descendants still live throughout Central America today, but the civilization that had defined an era was gone, its brilliance fading into myth. Yet even with these explanations, drought, war, famine, rebellion, the collapse still feels incomplete, as though something deeper remains hidden. How could a people so advanced in astronomy not predict the droughts that would come? How could a civilization that thrived for nearly 2,000 years crumble so suddenly? Some scholars believe that there might have been an ideological collapse, a loss of faith in the very worldview that had guided them for generations. When the gods stopped answering, when the stars no longer offered guidance, perhaps the people simply lost the will to continue the old ways. Others point to volcanic eruptions, pandemics, or even cosmic cycles, events the Maya themselves may have predicted in their mysterious long-count calendar. Every theory brings us closer, but none tell the full story. What we know is that the fall of the Maya was not just the end of a civilization, but the beginning of a legend, a haunting reminder of how even the most brilliant societies can fall when nature, ambition, and belief collide. Their temples still stand, their carvings still whisper, and their mystery still lives, echoing through the jungles that reclaimed their world. Even after the great cities fell silent and the jungles swallowed the temples whole, the spirit of the Maya did not disappear. It lived on in the people, in the languages still spoken, in the rituals still performed, and in the cosmic wisdom that continues to fascinate scholars to this very day. Though the monumental pyramids and stone inscriptions became ruins, the legacy of the Maya endured, whispering through time, influencing science, art, and human understanding in ways that stretch far beyond their ancient world. The fall of their civilization was not the end of their story. It was a transformation, a passage from one age to another. When the Spanish conquistadors arrived centuries later, they expected to find only primitive tribes in the forests. But what they discovered instead were descendants of the great Maya, people who still kept parts of their ancient traditions alive. The Spanish could conquer their cities, burn their codices, and try to erase their gods. But they could never destroy the deep-rooted connection the Maya had with time, nature, and the cosmos. Even today, in villages across Guatemala, Mexico, and Belize, the Maya calendar is still used for ceremonial purposes, guiding planting seasons, festivals, and spiritual practices. The sacred count of days continues, maintained by keepers of time known as Ajij, who pass their knowledge through generations, keeping alive one of the most intricate calendrical systems ever created by humankind. The influence of the Maya stretches far beyond the boundaries of their ancient lands. Their mathematics introduced the concept of zero, a revolutionary idea that became fundamental to modern arithmetic, science, and technology. Long before Europe or Asia had fully embraced the idea, the Maya understood that nothingness was not emptiness, but a vital part of the universe's balance. Their astronomical calculations were so accurate that even NASA scientists have marveled at their precision. Their predictions of solar eclipses, the movements of Venus, and lunar cycles were nearly flawless, achieved without telescopes or modern instruments. The Maya looked at the sky and saw not chaos, but a perfect order, a cosmic rhythm that humanity could learn from if only it paid attention. Their art, too, remains a testament to their genius. The intricate carvings that adorn temples and monuments tell stories not just of kings and wars, but of dreams, creation myths, and philosophical thought. The Maya believed that reality existed in layers, each connected to the next through sacred portals. Their architecture, their murals, even their city planning reflected this belief. Every structure was symbolic, every layout intentional, a living model of their understanding of the universe. This harmony between science, spirituality, and art is something few civilizations have ever achieved, and it remains one of the most profound aspects of their legacy. But perhaps the most powerful part of what the Maya left behind is not written in stone or carved in jade. It's embedded in the way they understood existence itself. To them, time was not a straight line leading from beginning to end. It was a circle, endlessly repeating, where death was not a conclusion but a renewal. This cyclical view of life resonates even today, influencing modern philosophy, environmental awareness, and spiritual thought. In a world obsessed with progress and speed, the Maya remind us that every ending carries the seed of a new beginning, and that harmony with the natural world is not a choice but a necessity for survival. Across Central America, archaeologists continue to uncover new temples, hidden texts, and artifacts that reveal just how deeply the Maya understood the world around them. But beyond the discoveries and scientific marvels, their greatest legacy may be the way they inspire us to look inward, to seek meaning not just in what we build, but in how we live. The descendants of the Maya still carry the echoes of that ancient knowledge, their rituals and prayers still reaching out to the same gods their ancestors once honored, their stories still passed down under the same stars that guided their forebears. The Maya may have fallen as an empire, but as a people, as an idea, as a mystery that continues to challenge our understanding of civilization itself, they never truly disappeared. The story of the Maya civilization is more than an ancient tale of rise and fall. It is a reflection of humanity itself. From the jungles where their empire first took root to the heavens they mapped with astonishing precision, the Maya achieved greatness not through conquest, but through knowledge, faith, and imagination. They built cities that touched the sky, wrote languages that spoke to eternity, and left behind mysteries that still stir the minds of scientists and dreamers alike. Their temples whisper of gods and kings, their calendars echo with the rhythm of the stars, and their art carries the pulse of a world that once saw the divine in everything. Yet behind their brilliance lies a warning, a reminder that even the most advanced civilizations are bound by the same fragile balance between humanity and nature, ambition and belief. The Maya mastered the cosmos, but perhaps it was their own world they could not control. Still, their disappearance did not silence them. Their legacy continues to breathe through their descendants, their discoveries, and the timeless questions they left behind. Every carved stone, every buried temple, every deciphered glyph brings us closer to understanding who they were, and perhaps who we are. The Maya civilization remains one of the greatest ancient mysteries ever discovered, not because it is lost, but because it continues to live in the earth and the stars, and in the endless human quest to uncover the truth hidden between them.